The truth on the EAP services is, this process, there's goals, there's targets. Calls are limited to 20 minutes, so you take 3 calls an hour. If you're not doing that, why aren't you doing that, Sharon? What can we do to help you do that? Do you need more training? No, I don't need more training. I am genuinely helping people here, whereas you're more interested in, churning these figures through. Goes towards the stats, so you can say we've helped X amount of people this month. You actually haven't, I actually have, and all I get for it is stick. And working there, I had the most sleepless nights. I didn't even have sleepless nights like this in the police. Morally, I struggled with it because it's disgusting. They are not there for you. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Blue Light Diaries. Today we are looking at why your free 6 hours of counselling might not be enough, and it's not completely confidential. I will allude to that very shortly. So coming up, we're going to look at what most police services offer you by way of mental health support currently, my own lived experiences of this, and why it's rarely fit for purpose, and the bit about confidentiality. So let's dive in and get started. So what do most police services offer you by way of mental health support? Now, I can only talk specifically for the police, as I've only been a police officer. But I do know, working from the other side, that this applies to ambulance and fire service as well. So do listen up. Don't you worry about a thing. We've got it covered. Free 24/7 access to counselling whenever you need it, and it's free. You'd do that for me? Brilliant. Most police services offer you a free 24/7 access to a counsellor whenever you need it. Now, that is generally through what's called an EAP, and that stands for Employee Assistant Programme. So the job may offer you a restricted amount of sessions, usually between 4 or 6, anywhere up to 10 to 12. Which are sourced out locally to you. And the group insurance scheme offers various benefits, which also are dwindling as well. So the triage process, the level of detail that gets shared, I know about this because I worked for an employee assistance program myself. I worked there for just over a year, and I was working on the helpline as a counsellor. So how it works is I would answer calls from anybody that had signed up to the employee assistance programme. So, for example, another police force, they could have a police officer that could call the counselling 24/7 helpline number, and that's when I would then be speaking to them. So, the triage process, what happens with that? Well, you initially get through to a counsellor who will ask you what you've got going on at this moment in time. And generally, they take you through a series of questions, which is essentially triaging your current situation and what kind of help you need, and allows us to get all the detail needed to be able to refer you on to another counsellor. Now, yes, I am a counsellor, so why can't I help you? EAP companies have counsellors on the helpline. They also have what they call affiliate counsellors. So people with their own practice can work to become an affiliate counsellor, and the EAP then provides them with the work. So me on the helpline, I would go through the triage process, recommend you to an appropriate level of support, and then that will get allocated to one of the affiliate counsellors all over the country, depending obviously on your location. So there is a lot of detail shared in there. Essentially, all your problems, all your woes, what you've got going on right now, what medication you're taking, including the dosage and what medication it is. If you're using any drugs or alcohol, how much, what quantities, dosages, details of your family, your wider support network, anything that you like to do for hobbies or out of work time, and whether you've had any suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts at all. Now, this is quite important because when the answer to that is yes, then a risk assessment is then put into place, and we talk very much in detail about what thoughts you've had, how recent they've been, the detail of that. Have you made any preparations to carry out these plans? And can you keep yourself safe right now? And we would do what's called a safety plan. So we could make sure that you were safe at that moment in time. And many a time I'd had people call on the verge of suicide, like, I'm going to go and do it now. I'm going to go jump in front of a train. It's a bit of a roulette as to whether you get referred to a counsellor for your 6 sessions, let's say, for example, because there are certain targets that EAPs must hit, or they want their counsellors to hit. So, for example, my targets were limit calls to 20 minutes where possible. Obviously, if they go over that, then they go over that. However, I have been repeatedly chastised via Teams when I've been on live calls with people that are in desperate need of help immediately. And I've had a Teams message come through to say, come on, wrap it up now. And then when I did wrap the call up, say 40 minutes, 45 minutes instead of the 20, I got a call, another message, sorry, on Teams to say, come on, he's just going around the houses now, end the call. And I was absolutely disgusted because I am helping this person the best way I know how. I don't want his end of life to be on my conscience, nor on the EAP, But it became very clear that these companies are businesses first and foremost, and the roulette as to whether you get referred to an affiliate counsellor for sessions all depends on the outcome of that triage. We are limited. I think at the time it was around a 13% chance whether you got put through for counselling or not. If you're putting too many people through, then you're looking at getting extra training. You're looking at patronising, condescending support in air quotes. And it's probably the most morally wrong places I've ever worked in my life. But I had to pay the bills somehow, and it did that for a year whilst I was able to set up my practice website and marketing and everything else. So what you're actually getting from your EAP company is called Solution Focused Brief Therapy, or abbreviated to SFBT, Sierra Foxtrot Bravo Tango. See, I've still got it. You can take the girl out of the police. That is all you get from affiliate counsellors. Short-term, solution-focused therapy to get you back out on the streets, doing your job, and then your absence isn't an issue to your employer anymore because the EAP programme has fixed that. If you need further sessions, you can go back to your employer and plead for more, a bit like I did, and depending on the funding that they put aside for that, as to whether they agree for another 6 sessions. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but if you need more than, say, 12 sessions, if you get granted your second batch, if you like, once you finish with that counsellor after 12 sessions, what happens if you're not 100% and you want to just carry on with that counsellor privately, say? Well, you're not allowed to do that. I had a clause where, well, the company I worked for had a clause where if you were an affiliate counsellor, you weren't allowed to work with your client for 3 months after the 6 sessions had finished. If you did, then there'd be an investigation. Ultimately, you were dismissed. Now, how is that in the best interests of the client? It's not. And that's purely because they're businesses first and foremost. The truth on the EAP services is, this process, there's goals, there's targets. Calls are limited to 20 minutes. So you take 3 calls an hour. If you're not doing that, why aren't you doing that, Sharon? What can we do to help you do that? Do you need more training? No, I don't need more training. I am genuinely helping people here. Whereas you're more interested in, churning these figures through. So, it goes towards the stats. So you can say, we've helped X amount of people this month. You actually haven't. I actually have. And all I get for it is stick. And working there, like, I had the most sleepless nights. I didn't even have sleepless nights like this in the police. Morally, I struggled with it because it's disgusting. They are not there for you. Now, there's a lack of experience and a lack of confidentiality, which I'm going to come to very shortly. So you think you're covered by this, right? And you're going to be looked after. Well, let me share with you some of my own experiences. So picture the scene. I'm 34 years old, hit my career goals, and the shit has hit the fan. I'm living with a spinal fracture awaiting surgery. My dad is diagnosed with cancer. I'm living in the thralls of antisocial behaviour, having my car tyres slashed, etc., because I'm a cop. And some other bomb-dropping news and events going on that alters life for everyone in my family. Here's how my experience of being supported by the job went. I called the GP. I pulled up in the car park one morning and thought, I've had enough of this. I can't keep continuing on. I can't keep going on anymore. So I rang my GP, told them I think I might be depressed. Now, for me to utter those words, I'm sure that all of you can relate to this. It's like admitting defeat. It's like admitting failure. So here I was saying those words in floods of tears, and I was told that I can't see anyone till I've completed this questionnaire. And then they sent me on my way. No appointment, nothing. They just said, oh, if you log on to here, go onto this website, fill in this questionnaire and then email it to us. Hang on a minute. Why am I having to put all the work in here? I'm saying I need help and you're just making me do unnecessary admin when you can just make me an appointment with the doctor right now. I was so fed up after that call. It was like the cherry on top of probably 8 months of being on restricted duties, trying to help everybody I could. Is there anything you need doing? Can I make you another brew? No. All I was useful for was ferrying cars between where I was stationed and headquarters, even though I was taking tramadol between 4 and 6 times a day. That was acceptable, but nothing else was. I was building up a tolerance to tramadol, so nobody would know. But I told them, are you happy with me doing this? I'm taking tramadol, I'm taking opiates. Like, are you happy with me doing this? Yeah, it's fine. Righto. Okay. So, mentioning this big thing, admitting to myself, I think I might be depressed, when deep down you think, oh shit, I am depressed. I need help. It meant, well, what did it mean? It meant uncertainty. It meant fear. It meant anxiety. It meant, shit, I can't take any more on. You know, that sack of shit that you hang over your shoulder from day one, getting too heavy. I'm going to have to let it slip. Both shoulders. I can't handle it anymore. So I went back upstairs to the office and said, I'm going on sick. And my inspector's response was, oh, finally, thought you'd have done that ages ago. Not the response I was hoping for. So 6 sessions of counselling was nowhere near enough, especially when you're collecting all these issues up, that it becomes too much because you don't want to be defeated at the first hurdle. What a letdown. As you know, I had to plead for more sessions. And the sessions after 12, I felt like I was in a better place to go off and manage this on my own, and I would have sourced further counselling had I needed it. But I am pretty solid in terms of resilience, I'd like to think. So getting back to the EAP services, my own lived experience of that, I have spoken to police officers on there that have shared details of incidents that they have been to, traumatic ones that have collected up over time. If there's been a series or a major incident, for example, or they've gone to like an incident whereby one of our own has been injured or killed. And we're talking about all these things on the call, the 20-minute call. And this officer in particular was offloading, which is fine. I went through the, the triage process with him, no immediate risk, blah, blah, blah. I then get a Teams message to say, you've been on this call for 25 minutes. Do you need any help? No, I don't need help. What I need is to be left alone to help the person that's on the phone, which is what you employ me to do, without any distractions from you. You're not a trained professional. You might be a manager of people. You are not a counsellor or a psychotherapist. I do not need help. But it wasn't help to deal with the client. It was help to wrap up the call and get me off the phone. That angered me. Because of the obvious reasons, the targets, etc., and the patronising manner of these people that haven't done a day's counselling in their life, have no idea. And who's going to be responsible if this person then goes and takes their own life? Not the manager, it's going to be me. Scapegoat. And B, because they were listening in on this call. Any call to or from an EAP can be listened into at any point, and I, as the call taker, would not know about that until someone got in touch with me. So when you start a call with, this call is confidential, everything you say here won't go back to your employer, etc., bullshit. It is not confidential. Those officers, be it police, fire and ambulance and call takers and people, airline pilots, are sharing confidential, sensitive information that can be listened into by anyone. The untrained counsellors, the managers of people, the supervisors of those people who are safeguarding experts, but clearly have no concept of safeguarding when they're telling you to get off a call because you've been on it 25 minutes. Disgusting. Which prompted me to work even harder and faster to get my practice working. But what the employers don't realise is they're buying into this service which has been sold to them by salespeople. And yes, on paper, it sounds and looks very good. It is basic. It is not fit for purpose in the slightest, and it is not confidential. So by way of that, they're facilitating this and allowing confidential, sensitive information to be shared amongst anybody that works at the EAP company. Now, I have evidence of this. I have spoken to other people about this. I am aware of many of my colleagues experiencing exactly the same, and I'm not alone, 100%. My absolute mission is to be honest and open about this, because I've had that myself. Oh, you've got access 24/7 to a counsellor from another EAP service, as if I'm going to ring you. I know exactly what happens behind the scenes. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. You may have heard an interview on the BBC in relation to certain employee assistance programmes, and there might be further articles on that in due course. But what I need to do is get it out there to all of the emergency service employers, the recruitment HR that make the decisions to pay these people money. It is not confidential. It is not fit for your staff. Okay, if staff's got a job interview, they're feeling a bit anxious, they need some CBT to help build their confidence, that kind of stuff, brilliant. Trauma, PTSD, complex PTSD, depression, big time no. It's not suitable. If you've had any experiences of EAP counselling, do let me know, because I'd be interested to hear about that. Through my own lived experience of counselling, through working with the EAP service, and the fact that various things can be reported back to HR if this counselling service is part of, like an in-house service. But what inspired me to go into counselling and to support emergency service workers is I am completely independent of your employers. Nobody gets in touch with me from your employers and say, can you do counselling for ABC, please? You can come to me on your terms whenever you are ready, and nothing gets fed back to the job. Absolutely nothing. Even if they asked me, nothing gets fed back to the job, unless it's a major safeguarding issue, or you're a terrorist, or you're a human trafficker, or anything like that. But it wouldn't go to the job necessarily. Also, what's important about the help that I offer is it's unrestricted. And what I mean by that is it's unrestricted in the amount of sessions that you can have. You can come for 1 session and leave if you want. No one's going to penalise you for that. You can come for 100 sessions and come every week for that long if you wanted to. It is entirely on your terms. And this is what caring about people is all about. Being person-centered, empowering them to make their own decisions, not doing it for them. This is where you're going to go. This is who you're going to see. You'll have 6 50-minute sessions. You will go to them all. And if you're not better at the end of that, tough shit. Okay, not all forces say tough shit. They'll give you another 6 sessions. But what happens after that? Because the solution-focused brief therapy you've had for your, I don't know, 22 years on road policing unit, dealing with fatals day in, day out, it's never going to touch the sides. I have read from a counselling colleague who works as an affiliate counsellor for an employee assistance programme, an EAP, that she had a dilemma as to whether to accept work from the EAP or not, because she was getting clients through that had experienced childhood sexual abuse, obviously historical, and they were being referred for 4 sessions to her. Childhood sexual abuse. Is that appropriate to refer to an affiliate counsellor for solution-focused brief therapy for 4 sessions? Absolutely not. But do you know what the issue was? This affiliate counsellor felt like she couldn't turn that work down because she depended on the income from them. The minute you start turning work down from EAPs, they won't send you anymore because you're no good to them, are you? Refusing work. So this poor lady was in a dilemma as to whether she should take this person on. No, it's of absolute detriment to that person's mental well-being. That person potentially is going to go into those 4 sessions thinking, this is going to help me. Work told me this is going to help me. Comes to the end of the 4 sessions and they've not even scratched the surface. So what does that do to that client? Oh, I've tried counselling, it was shit. Not going back again. That is not a true representation of counselling. I have had multiple clients that sit on my sofa and tell me, I am so pleased I found you, because every counsellor I've seen before has tried to fix me. They have tried to tell me I should do this, I should do that. Counsellors are trained not to give advice. We empower the person to find the tools and the skills within them to solve their own issues. That is support. We don't give advice. What does the EAP helpline do? Why don't you think about going out with your wife and having some downtime? What do you do for fun? Maybe you should play some more hockey or go walking your dog more often. Is there something you can do with the kids that will help get you out and about? You know, get that serotonin and dopamine pumping. It's advice giving, completely against what counsellors are. So all of that inspired me to start my practice, and the conversations that you have with EAP companies, they are not entirely confidential at all. And, you know, to just summarize with that, do emergency service bosses actually realize what they've signed up for? And if they do, why the fuck have they signed up for it, knowing that it's totally inappropriate? Not every police force or ambulance service or firefighter service is signed up for these, but a majority of them are. And I tell you who else I would have several conversations with: doctors in hospitals, nurses in hospitals, airline pilots, members of parliament. None of what you say is confidential. Sorry to break it to you. But the thing that got me with that was shortly before I left, like a few months before I left, they were advertising for people to join the helpline. Why don't you come along, listen in on a few calls, see if it's your thing, if it's up your street, and then you can apply. Hang on a minute. These calls are confidential. No, they're not. We're even getting people in off the street who want to become counsellors, call takers that give advice, not counsellors. And they can listen in on what you're saying on your call without you knowing, without me knowing. How disgusting is that? So these EAP businesses are first and foremost businesses, and they are winning large contracts with large force areas that save thousands of pounds, because to have bespoke, tailored, appropriate support is going to cost a damn sight more than what they're paying for at the moment. Appropriate skills and experience costs money. If you pay cheap, you buy twice. Pay monkeys, you get peanuts. Whatever phrase you want to put on it. This is the truth, and it needs exposing as the truth. And please bear that in mind when you think of calling your 24/7 free counselling service that seems so good on the tin. Absolutely. But if you're okay with somebody that might get a job there and they're listening to your calls to see if it's floating their boat or not, crack on. So, as always, I'd love to hear your experiences, good or bad, or any thoughts on the aspect of this episode. And if you want to be anonymous, that's absolutely fine. Or if you'd rather come on screen, or just write in and tell me, get in touch with the email address that's in the show notes or via the website. And my number's on there as well, so you can message me directly if you wish. So just to summarise today, I have covered what you usually get offered from HR as part of your EAP service, if your force signs up to those, and how this is set up. And I've shared my own experience of this, both as the client and as the police officer needing support, and the counsellor working for the EAP service offering the pants support. Be aware of this. So consider the bigger picture and always put yourself first. I've created a practice whereby I know just where you're coming from which will save you some valuable time in therapy. I'm totally independent of the police and all the other emergency services, and everything is entirely confidential. And I know the real meaning and the real value of that. When I say it's entirely confidential, it is entirely confidential, 1,000,000%. Not when it suits me. I don't have people listening in. I don't have people that maybe want to come and work with me and just have a listen in on this session and see if you like it. No, it's about you. So I may no longer be a police officer, but I am still inside, and that never leaves you, and it never will. So share this podcast. Share it among your network and with your colleagues and your peers from all of the emergency services. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. There's huge progress to be made here, and seeking help is not a sign of weakness. Ignoring it is. So when you're ready to talk, I'm here to listen. And until the next episode, take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.